state delegate from the 25th District in Virginia, Steve Landis. Delegate Landis, great to have you.
John, good to be with you again.
I know you guys got a lot going on because you convene on Wednesday. Today's Monday, so it's kind of the final 2 days to do fundraising and all that good stuff. I want to cut to the chase, Delegate Landis. You've got what we consider to be a landmark education reform bill on the table in Virginia. Can you explain to our audience what it is, what it does?
Well, I don't know what specific legislation, John, you might be referring to, but we have a lot of different bills that we're moving forward as part of the Republican caucus this year. But a couple things that I'm working on related to education are basically a couple bills to try to protect student privacy, and that's something we've heard from our constituents and parents. And so we're moving those forward. We're also working on efforts to support teachers, reduce bureaucratic red tape, trying to find better measures for student success, and a myriad of other things. I also have a piece of legislation related to trying to help our students be able to move through the higher education system a little bit more quickly by standardizing the AP credit courses that students take in high school. Right now, every college and university kind of determines how much those courses will count towards higher education credit, and we're trying to standardize that. So we have a lot going on.
So when we get to your privacy bill for education, I mean, this is one of those things that's under the radar screen, but it concerns a lot of parents because it gets back to how the government is just getting involved in everything we do, from spying us from the NSA to taking pictures of plates to not being able to protect the privacy on your driver's license. It goes on and on and on. Outline the issues with school privacy, Steve.
Well, there are two, John, that we're trying to address with two different bills. One, lo and behold, the Code of Virginia still requires our schools to collect Social Security numbers and to have that as a possibility for a student identifier number. Well, I work for a bank, and anybody in the private sector can tell you now that if you have to collect Social Security numbers, that is one thing that you want to make sure you have the process and procedures to protect folks' identities so that that information can't be released or breached in any form or fashion. Unfortunately, with the advances in technology, many hackers are getting into systems. Some of the largest businesses in the country have had problems with people accessing personal information, including Social Security numbers. So what this legislation will do is say, over the next year, the Department of Education will work with our schools to move away from collecting and utilizing that Social Security number as a student identifier and selecting another identifying number to be able to assign to each student. A lot of schools are moving away and from doing that now, but that's just something I think we can make sure happens and make sure that they're not required to collect the Social Security number, and that will help solve the problem.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Let's get to Medicaid expansion. The governor, once again, say that he's going to put that at forefront in his agenda. But I think this time the difference is, what I understand, is that the governor and some of his allies in the House and Senate are going to be going to Republicans and saying, okay, what is your plan to cover these 400,000 Virginians that are caught in the coverage gap, make too much money for Medicaid to qualify for Medicaid, but don't make enough money to pay for insurance, and they also don't qualify for the Obamacare subsidy. They're just kind of in no man's land. How do we look at that?
Well, there are two issues, John. One, as you know, and we've talked about this in the past on your show, we, at least on the House side, and I think more and more of our senators agree that Medicaid expansion doesn't make sense for Virginia, given the fact that the federal government is not balancing its budget, and more importantly, it's becoming that deep, dark, black hole where states send money and then the money just stays there to help pay for the federal deficit that continues to grow. the other problem is with Medicaid expansion, states are now realizing that have done that. They're looking at court cases challenging their expansion, and more importantly, the feds are not providing all the things that they have said that they would as part of the waiver process when you do expand Medicaid. So that's our concern. Virginia, as you know, is a state that has to pay 50% of its current population. We're very concerned that given those facts, the feds would come back and say, well, we're not going to give you 90% or 100% in those years that they're supposed to do that. They're going to ratchet it back down to 50%, and that would cost Virginia, billions of dollars. So what we're saying as an alternative are two things. One, we need to continue to work on our reforms. Medicaid is already 22% of the state budget. The only thing that's larger is public education. That's 36%. And those two, along with higher education, comprise about 75% of our budget. So that's our concern. But we do think that we need to do a full-blown audit. We've gotten the Senate now to come around with the realization that that makes sense through our Joint Legislative Audit Review Commission to look at where the costs are, what other states are doing, and see if we can provide some efficiencies in that system. What that would allow us to do is in turn invest or reinvest in our system to actually cover more people. So you might be able to pick up the folks that legitimately are falling through the cracks that don't qualify either through the private sector or through the federal exchange health care. We also are talking last year, and we're going to be talking again this year, about providing additional funds for our free clinics and health community centers that help the hardest hit individuals that can't access or do not have access to health care. That's our health safety net, and we think that makes a lot of sense because that's state resources. We can afford it to go out there and help the folks that are helping people that can't make it, and free clinics do a great job.
They really do. We're back with Steve Landis, Republican, Delegate, 25th District, and get ready to go to session. Delegate Terry McAuliffe, all kinds of gun control legislation in an environment in Virginia where nobody has any stomach for this. A lot of us look at it and yawn and say, Bloomberg payback. What say you?
Well, John, the governor is from New York, so that's the kind of legislation, the kind of initiatives I think you'd see from somebody in the big northern states. But it's not something that we're going to see pass in Virginia, in the Virginia General Assembly. Many of these ideas have been put forward before and have failed, either in the House of Delegates or State Senate, or even in certain circumstances, both. So I don't know if it's a payback for former Mayor Bloomberg, but obviously he contributed a lot to the governor's campaign, as well as a lot of his New York friends, and that's the kind of thing that you would see in the New York General Assembly or state legislature, but it's not something that I think you'll see pass the Virginia General Assembly.
Yeah, bottom line, it's going nowhere fast. That's the bottom. That's kind of, it's you see some of these things and you're like, he knows that none of what he proposed is going to see the light of day out of any committee in the House. And right now, Virginians have no taste for that whatsoever, especially with what just happened in Paris. But sometimes these things have to get done just to make noise, and I think that's what's happening, right?
Well, John, it is an election year, and I'm sure the governor is trying to set up things for his party to try to use, some of these issues in the election and campaign this fall, and so it's to be expected. But I would hope that the governor and the Democrat caucus in both the House and Senate would be concerned about dealing with issues that we face, whether it's education or Medicaid, dealing with our health care, those kinds of things that are more important to the average Virginians, and putting people back to work. I mean, that's what I hear from constituents is they want good-paying jobs, and they want us to get serious about trying to put Virginians back to work and working on our educational system and addressing some of these health care issues we've got.
They want jobs, and they want to keep their guns, no doubt about that. Okay, I'm going to ask you this, Steve. I'm predicting, and I'm never wrong on this stuff, as my listeners know, I'm predicting that tomorrow night Joe Morrissey is going to win. He's going to get elected back to the House as an independent. If my prediction plays out, Morrissey wins. Are you guys going to try to kick him out of the House?
Joe, Delegate Morrissey, I would hope would not be elected by his constituents, given the fact that he is a convicted of a crime, serious crime, from the standpoint of the young woman involved. That's not the kind of individual we want serving in the Virginia House of Delegates. At this point, John, I don't know what the House will do related to discipline. We have options of not only expulsion but censure, and we'll just have to wait and see where there is support in that avenue. I personally would support expulsion, even after the citizens of that district may have reelected him, but that wouldn't preclude him from running again in the fall, unfortunately. But I don't think it sets the right tone or the right having the right individual represent people in the Virginia House of Delegates. That's just not the kind of body we want to be, and I think we will have to do something in a very deliberate and serious manner in dealing with that.
Well, it's. I think he's going to win, and that's what I'm predicting. So you guys are going to have to figure out what to do. And one of the scenarios that came up is he wins this special, you guys kick him out, then you have to have another special because they'll not be representative for the 74th. So I know that on two sides of the aisle, many people are hoping that somebody else will win. I don't see it happening. He's somehow been able to garner enough of his backers and just anti-establishment types that don't like the way the Democrats pick their candidate. I think that process backfired, no doubt about it. We'll see how it plays out. Delegate Landis, we really want to thank you for joining us today. We know you've got a lot on your plate. We look forward to following your key initiatives in 2015. If people want to follow you, where do they go?
John, they can go to our website at stevelandis.com. It's Landes. They can also go through the website for the Virginia General Assembly, which is very easy, virginiageneralassembly.gov, and follow us either way. Or I'm on Facebook and Twitter now, and I John, clicked on Twitter to follow you. So I look forward to doing that.
All right, we got a new follower, Steve Landis. We're going to have to follow him on Twitter as well. Steve, thanks for being with us. We're out of time.